Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Today I'll be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you the top 5 teams for Open Ultra League. So if you're probably wondering why I didn't do my top 5 for Open Ultra League, it's just because it's freaking Open Ultra League. Everybody wants to play the Ultra League remix, even though both of them feature XLs. And Open Ultra League is, some people do really well in it, some people like remix, but generally, like, if you've been watching my content for a while, Open Ultra League's meta is pretty stable. There are a few changes throughout every moment. For example, like Trevenant kind of jacked up the Open Ultra League meta a little bit, but at the same time, what balances out those picks that come in is just the fact that legendaries for Ultra League are super powerful. Cresselia is still freaking great. Giratina's freaking amazing. And then even Charmers, like double Charm teams or like Charmers in general, like Sylveon or Togekiss do really well in this cup. So, not much has changed, but if you're really good in Open Ultra League meta, like I prefer Open Ultra League versus Ultra Premier, etc. Just because, like I mentioned, the meta is pretty stable for a few changes. So, for my mental health tip for the day, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. So, if you're looking at like social media or something like that, I encourage you to take another hobby and look away from it. Social media is full of toxic negativity as well as toxic positivity. It's okay if where you're at right now. Social media is terrible for your mental health. It can be good as a way to interact with your friends, but more often than not, you see a whole bunch of things that really make you feel bad about yourself. For example, that person who filtered the unholy crap out of their picture, etc. Yeah, they look good, but they're probably not doing that good in real life. They're probably spending like 2 hours getting ready for a photo. What can you do for 2 hours that works for you? You can read a book, you could go for a run, you could work out. There's a lot of things you can do. In other words, don't let other people's progress impede you. It doesn't matter, because if you can beat the King of Charmanders, if you can beat me, you can beat them too. Like, no one in Go Battle League is invincible. So, I know, because I've either beaten them or I've given them a really hard time, despite the fact that I wasn't even trying. Well, I was trying, but like, you know, if you're not counting moves and I'm not formulating teams, I'm not trying. I'm just going in there. I'm like, okay, you know what? Left-handed salute. Actually, that's my right hand. I served in the military, so yes. But yes, don't worry about it. There's a lot of bad things going on right now. Be informed, but don't let it get you down too much. If you feel like it's putting you in a really bad spot, put away the social media, go play a video game or something. Take your mind off of it so you could break that anxiety and depression. Because sometimes there's just nothing you could do about it. That's my mental health tip for the day. Anyways, this is the top 5 teams for Open Ultra League. So, let's get started. Alright, so, in order to access this list, before I say anything, please consider contributing to pvpoke.com. So, in order to access this menu, all you have to do is do this. Go over to Train, go to Top Performers, click on that, and boom. All you have to do is go to this drop-down box, then go to Open Ultra League, and then poof. Ultra League Remix will be updated later, but yeah. There's not really, if you've noticed like what's in here, you're like, oh, I still see the same things over and over again. So, in fact, there's no unique teams for like the top 5. Everyone's, as you see the percentiles, like there are very few teams, unique teams that have actually broken the mold. If it's orange, it's usually that probably one or some individual is running this team and it's doing well for them. But if you look in like the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In the top 9, literally like it's more than one person running the same combination. So it's not surprising. A lot of combinations in Open Ultra League, especially if it's old, is still really good. So, as you see, not much has changed. So I'm going to dive right into the top 5 teams. But as you see, all of them are very, very powerful. So, we go on over here. We go on to the top teams. So here's Team Builder. As you see here, we have Trevenant, Empoleon, and Machamp. I don't know, like, I don't think this team really has a safe switch. I think Empoleon is your safe switch. So you'll safe switch into Empoleon if Trevenant is there, but usually what happens is that if they have a Machamp in the back and they swap it into Empoleon, it's going to really suck. Because essentially what you're going to have to do, they swap their Machamp or their Obstagoon into you. You're going to try to chip away as much as you can. Then you send in the Machamp to farm it down. And hopefully Machamp with energy can take out their Machamp or whatever's in the back. And then Trev can close out. Trevenant is very powerful for Open Ultra League. Literally broke the entire meta because... well, the funny thing, it's meta, but it's also broken the meta, so, like, it's a very weird conundrum. Came out at a really bad time, but then again, Niantic has no idea what they're doing for PvP anyways, because it's not like they've had a great PvP team to begin with. I will roast them all day. I don't care. Y'all are terrible at your freaking jobs. If you still have one anyways. Anyways, as you see here, we have great coverage, great safety, great consistency, not a lot of bulk. All three of these mons aren't super bulky. They're just here to do an obscene amount of damage. So, we scroll down here, I see overall they do very well. And then if you see here for 628, its threat score is pretty low. Anything below 600 for Open Ultra is pretty low, or like close to it. It's still pretty low. Now, the thing about this team is if you look over here, it's very rough with Trevenant lead. Just because this team doesn't really have like a viable safe switch or a good one to begin with. You're going to safe switch into Empoleon and hopefully Machamp can close out because you lure out the Obstagoon or you force their own Machamp into you and hopefully you do chip or something of that combination and then you just like realign everything. Still did very well in practice though. Gengar, Dragonite, and Trevenant itself. Trevenant beats this entire team. It gives it a really hard time because you tie with Trevenant, so whoever wins CMP or gets extra fast moves in this situation is going to win. And at the same time, it resists Waterfall, and you also resist Machamp's counters. So it's a very rough patch if you see a Trevenant yourself in the lead. You try to win it out, and then you try to farm down. If you get in a situation, sack Trevenant in the lead or try to win this matchup. And then what you're going to do is send in Empoleon or Machamp to farm down, and hopefully with energy advantage, they can give you the dub. Keyword is hopefully. Gengar outpaces Trevenant just because of Shadow Punch. Dragonite does really well against Trevenant just because of Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw. And the fact that it resists Seed Bomb. Like, double resist Seed Bomb. So it's like, oh. So you have to, like, ball out. Or try to hopefully land a ball. What's even worse is that Mandibuzz also has a really great matchup against Trevenant. Mandibuzz is your worst nightmare in this scenario because Mandibuzz effectively walls Trevenant. It will resist both Seed Bomb. And it will also resist your Shadow Ball. So it's a super tank. So it's not essentially an auto loss, but like you're going to hope that Empoleon and Machamp or Trevenant itself have a really great matchup because Mandibuzz is rough. Yes, and like I mentioned, this team doesn't really have a safe switch anyway, so it's probably a sack the lead strat or you send in Empoleon, try to lure out the fire like I mentioned or like the Obstagoon and try to beat it down, but there's a lot of things running around Open Ultra League nowadays, so I'm not sure if that's a great strategy. But still a great team, so if you like Glass Cannon-like strats that just pressure and beat the unholy hell out of your opponent, this team is for you. Alright, for the next team, at number 4, where both of these, the reason I didn't see the ratings, because like both of these have very similar ratings, 547 and 547.7, it's not, there's not a lot of like, yeah, there's not like much of a difference here, as far as like individual rating goes. However, this features Swampert lead. Alolan Muck is your safe switch. Amok with Snarl was a popular safe switch back in the day. It's still really good to this day. Most of them are using Poison Jab though, so just keep that in mind. And then Obama closes out. So this does feature Obama XL. As you see in this team, it is an XL variation at 49. XL Bomb is still really strong, especially against a lot of matchups, and if you have it against Swampert, because it can eat multiple Hydro Cannons or Earthquakes. Be aware that Swampert does have Sludge Wave, so if you're that crazy person running Sludge Wave and you want to get walled by Giratina, it's not necessarily a bad idea if you get matched up against Obama Snow. Terrible coverage, not a lot of bulk. Good safety and consistency just because Muck is a pretty solid safe switch nowadays. And the fact that Obama Snow and Swampert are just a lot of pressure in this team as far as damage and just fast and just charge moves. That's why you have a B for consistency. The issue I have with this team, it's very scary. So it still does rates extremely well. Most of these here you won't see, with the exception of Scrafty, Articuno, etc. Swampert with Hydro Cannon is a boss. It doesn't lose to Talonflame in the 2 shield. The thing about if you do see a Talonflame in the lead against a Swampert, you're gonna have to be really fancy because Swampert does outpressure you in the 2-shield scenario. Fun fact, a Brave Bird can kill Swampert, but you won't OKO it with one shot. You need that plus some chip, unless it's like terrible IVs. As you see here, if you run the sim against Swampert, as you do, it says you win the 2-shield, but that's only if you land a Brave, like as you see it, that's only if you land Brave Bird. In the zeros, Talonflame usually loses, and like I mentioned before, Brave Bird doesn't OKO a Swampert. You need to make sure it has chip, otherwise it won't KO. Usually if you do send it against Swampert, Swampert's already hurt, so then you can Brave Bird for the victory. But yeah, just keep that in mind, so just be very careful. That, or you can do a Flame Charge slash, you could do a Flame Charge slash a Flame Charge slash a Brave Bird if you get to that scenario. So that the only reason Talonflame is able to beat is because of Burb. Burb does a lot of damage. So this team is very good just because Swampert its pace is so much, and then Muck is your safe switch, and Obama closes out. The problem is kind of Talonflame can still like break your shields, and Talonflame does have a pretty good matchup against Obama and Muck if you see it in the lead. And you won't have to switch out, of course, but if they switch something into you, it's gonna be like, oh, this is bad. Because if you look at Obama and Muck, there's a lot of things in the back row right here that can give you a hard time. For example, because you are using Snarl, if you get Scrafty thrown into you, it sucks for Alolan Muck just because you can Sludge Wave, but Scrafty could just rev up with those power-up punches. So just keep that in mind. As you see, other fighters give this team a hard time, but the reason it's doing so well in practice, because you won't see all these other combinations. The most you'll see is probably Talonflame, Scrafty, and there are ways you can play out of those matchups just because, like I mentioned, this team has a lot of pressure, does a lot of damage. Umbreon can also give you an incredibly hard time. Yes, Alolan Mug beats it in the 1-shield, but in the 2-shield, it can tank a lot of Hydro Cannons, and you're using Snarl Muck, so that means you can't just Poison Jab and Acid Spray down Umbreon, so be very careful of XL Umbreons as well. Alright, so team number 3 is Abomasnow, Swampert, and Typhlosion with a whole 10 points above the previous team. And this is very strange because this doesn't really have a safe switch. Okay, so a little history about Go Battle League. Swampert used to be a pretty baller safe switch back in the day. There weren't a lot of things that could take it out because of the fact that Abomasnow XL didn't exist. And if you... Fun fact, if you double Earthquake through shields... If you, in the no-shield scenario, double Earthquake will take out a Giratina. Giratina altered, so yeah. But nowadays, like, Swampert safe switch is not great. It's still good, but it's not great because there's a lot of things you can put up against Swampert, particularly something called Trevenant that will absolutely wipe it from the face of the earth. Even if you do have Sludge Wave does neutral damage. And it gets to Seed Bomb pretty dang fast, and Seed Bomb can KO Swampert, so... Or more like will KO if it hits. Typhlosion's in the back. I'm guessing what this team does is that it does the Shield Breaker strat. So what the Shield Breaker strat basically is you take Abomasnow and try to take it to the zeros, then you sweep with your back row. It's a great strategy. The problem is there's Obstagoon leads running around everywhere. There's Machamps in the lead. So Abomasnow used to be a fantastic lead, but with the rise of like Incinerate users, along with like, well, you probably won't see an Incinerate lead, but you could probably see it because it's open Ultra League. As you see here, it's very rough to do that. So this team probably banks on that like double break shield strat, and then Typhlosion or Abomasnow can close out. Shadow Claw Typhlosion is still very powerful. The issue with that is Incinerate is just so good. So if you get one Incinerate through shields, that's 20 energy off the bat. So I like Incinerate better than Shadow Claw. However, as someone as the Mega Beam team creator, the person that beamed their way to rank 10/legend in season 1, that was I missed that so much. So Shadow Claw Typhlosion is good. Not a lot of bulk. All three of these mons just do a ton of damage. Not a lot of coverage either, but because you have 2 Community Day move mons along with Abomasnow, make sure you vote for Obama. It does a ton of damage. Not very safe, like I mentioned, though. It really isn't as safe as it looks on the grade, just because of Trevenant. Super huge high threat score. You got fighters, you got Talonflame. Talonflame is the big one, because if you safe switch into Swampert against Talonflame, they're going to switch out. And Typhlosion and Abomasnow, I'm guessing that's why Shadow Claw is here, to take out Talonflame with Shadow Claw and Blast Burn. However, you do need to land 2, and Talonflame can comfortably eat Blast Burns pretty good. Along with that, if they get incinerates through your Shadow Cloud, it's going to be a rough day for you. So this team's... I still think this team does really well. I think I faced it like once, but without the Typhlosion in the back. But it does have a high threat score. So if you're not used to those glassy shield breaking strats with confidence, I don't think you should run this team. But it's still really powerful. Alright, team number 2 features KFC, a Chickmunk, and... You know, someone commented on one of my videos of what Obstagoon is, but I totally forgot what the heck it is. So this features Talonflame, Greedent, and Obstagoon. I'm guessing Greedent is your safe switch. Greedent is pretty dope as a safe switch, because even though you have Machamp against it, it gets body slams. It gets to body slams like pretty fast, and Obstagoon is a monster to close out against a lot of combinations. It does use Cross Chop and Night Slash though. I like Hyper Beam, but you know, this team is pretty dang strong. At number 2 at 562 and with a really high usage rating, this team is very popular and is doing a lot of damage, as you see with a 562 rating. At number 2, this is incredibly powerful. Greedent is super thick and has a lot. It does because of Bullet Seed and its spam. It's just it's really, really good. Especially if you see like a Swampert, it's just like, oh, Bullet Seeds are like slimes for days. Not a lot of coverage. Bulk, safety, consistency are very balanced though. Obstagoon, Greedent is very bulky, and because of their bulk, they do make up for Talonflame squishiness. Even though Talonflame XL isn't really that squishy. No, seriously, it's not. It's not. If you played against it, it's like, nah, it's like, this thing could take a lot of damage. Very well against all of the overall meta. Talonflame is still a wonderful and powerful lead. You lose lead against Talonflame, you safe switch in a Greedent, or you could safe switch in Obstagoon. I would say Greedent just because if you do see Machamp, like you can break a couple of shields, etc. just because you don't want to get punched. Obstagoon doesn't do well against a Machamp. A lot of you have probably farmed down Obstagoons with fighters. Plenty of times. That's why. As you see here, very high threat score. Very, very high. But the combinations that you lose against... they're not things you're probably going to see a lot. Unless you spent a lot of bread, Deoxys Defense XL probably won't be inside of your menu. Along with that, everything else as you see over here, you're probably not going to see. That's why this team has performed very well, just because a lot of, like, basically the only thing that takes you out, you're not going to see a lot, and it does really well against a lot of combinations. Talonflame can also break shields. You can burb and dip, or you can chip and dip. And then you can send in Greedent, but there's a lot of things you can do with the pressure and the overall, like, just damage that this team can put out. Even though it has a high threat score, it's super powerful, and like you see here, your overall threats, you're not going to see them a lot. So outside of, like, even against, like, Swampert leads, etc., this team is very powerful and does a lot of damage. If you have a Greedent XL, which I don't, but I have a Talonflame XL just because I had a community day, it's very powerful, so... just put that out there. Obstagoon's pretty obtainable, so outside of... but it's just Greedent. Like, Greedent XL is expensive, and unless you play during that when it was released, like, very heavily, you likely don't have one, or you're gonna have to trade, etc. to get one. Alright, now team number 1. Machamp, Talonflame, Umbreon. If you've been looking and watching my content, this team was a top team before. Actually, yeah, this was a top team before. Like, I think it was Machamp, Cresselia, and then Machamp, Talonflame, Umbreon, once it released, is just a beast. And this team is incredibly powerful to this day. If you look over here, 577.6. However, because if you spend a religious amount of time on this website, like I used to, and still kind of do to this day, as you see here, this team is very popular. It's not... there's no secret. Like, they're like, okay, you know what? This team's good. This team's good. It's good. You likely already have all these components because both of these already had community days. You might just have to Elite TM Last Resort onto your Umbreon, but if you're looking at my video, you probably already have one built. Maybe. Hopefully. Hopefully. Keyword is hopefully. Machamp lead is very good. You can break shields, and you can straight Rock Slide down Talonflame. So it's a very powerful mon in the lead. You lose lead with Machamp, you send in Talonflame for shields. Or you can even switch into Umbreon. I'll do a lot of fancy catches with Umbreon just to close out the match. But as you see, overall, this team is really freaking strong. You go on, it has bees across the board. This grade hasn't changed. From the previous time I've analyzed this team to now, this team still has bees across the board, which means it's freaking good. Overall, against overall meta, this team performs very well and has a perfect combination of pressure. I wouldn't say accessibility. I don't approve of the XL system. However, both of these did have community days, so maybe you could build them, maybe not. The thing is, for both of these is you need perfects. So I caught my Talonflame and my buddy was like, hey, dude, perfect Talonflame, or like perfect fletching. And then we went, yay, we go. And then I've already had a perfect Umbreon from like a while. Yeah, I've had a perfect Umbreon for a while. So multiple EVs, multiple Talonflames. So it's just like, well, not multiples. I found like Friend and then Umbreon just been out. Eevee's been out forever since Generation 1. So there you go. But you do need perfects at the most if you don't want to waste resources. Other than that, 98s can do. Just be aware that if you don't have perfects or 98s, or if you don't have like the rank 1 level 50 level 51 for Talonflame, you're going to use a lot of Stardust and you're gonna lose CMP. So just keep that in mind. What I mean by losing CMP is that because, yeah, they're perfect, yours is a lower IV, so they win. You're gonna have to get that extra Incinerate or those extra Snarls through to take the dub. Gets overall meta, does really well, performs really great. Machamp is a beast. Even though you do lose the lead with Machamp, you can switch to Talonflame and Umbreon, and as you see, they provide adequate coverage against Trevenant. This is the 1 shield, but then the 2 shield Talonflame is pretty dang good. Or even if you have like moves queued, etc., Trevenant goes down pretty hard. Really low threat score, and the reason I say really low is because if you look over here, Milotic, Altaria, Dragalge, Draiku, Sandslash, Tentacruel, you're not going to see a lot of those in Open Ultra League. You might see Lugia, so just be careful. If you see a Lugia, that'd probably be your worst sniper, because even though Umbreon does have a great matchup against it, you don't want a Machamp against an Lugia, just because Rock Slide tickles. No, seriously, it does. If it ever happened, like, dang. Also, if you get a Charmer in the lead, it also really sucks because Charm leads eviscerate this team. If you switch into Umbreon, you're probably going to get to the point to where you can farm down with Talonflame. The issue is you're gonna have to expend the shield, or you're gonna try to save your shield to Machamp, or like I mentioned, you're gonna have to expend the shield against the Charmer. Even worse, if they switch out, then it's going to be really rough for you because you have to switch into... You can switch in a Talonflame, but you're going to lose your only counter to the Charmer, and then it could just Charm to shield you down. Despite this fact, it's still the #1 team, statistically the most powerful one, and has dominated for multiple seasons. So, this team is in fact very powerful, and will do very well for you in Open Ultra League. Kind of justifies, remember what King of Charmander said, the meta doesn't change too much. It's kind of ironic because the top team has been here for like 3 different seasons. No, literally, it's been here for this long. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That was, as you see, Open Ultra League is pretty dang great for the fact that it's a stable meta, but just like Ultra League remakes, it's very expensive. It's funny because one of my wrestling kids that does PvP, he's like, yay, I good 5-0 in Great League. And I'm like, do you have anything built for Ultra League? He's like, no, I don't. So I'm like, it's okay. I will give you, I have a bunch of stuff for Open Ultra League, so I will build it and trade it to you for free. So, yes, I take care of my wrestling kids, but also I can give them Pokemon with Stardust, because I have a lot of the, you know, when you play this game religiously, you help out your friends, but if only that barrier to entry was lowered, maybe we would have more players for Pokemon Go PvP. But that's in a fantasy world, because Legend of Arceus is coming out, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have effectively kind of just... like, Spartan kicked all attention away from Pokemon Go PvP in general. So, yeah, it's history has shown that shiny hunting is a lot more popular and way more powerful than competitive Pokemon Go PvP, or even the main series game, to be honest with you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Again, Open Ultra League is a pretty stable meta, so if you build mods for it, just like with Talonflame, since its release in Season 7, it's done really well for this meta. So has combinations like Obama Snow, and Swampert's just been good forever. So long-term investments with your Stardust will do very well. Unfortunately, if you're a brand new player, I can't promise you, but you probably won't have a Praetor in this meta, so I apologize on behalf of... No, wait, I'm not going to apologize on behalf of Niantic. Screw Niantic. It's a terrible company. You guys try to play us with our money. You see that little update where they're like, oh, we're gonna play with our like players. Depending on where you're at, we're gonna play with your wallet. It's funny because I had dinner with my friends, my Pogo friends. My box was like 700. One of my friends' boxes for that litter box was 350, and someone else was like 500. And it's funny because we were talking about it, and this chick called Sue, she's one of like our local players. She's like, why is my box 750 coins? Because we were just making fun. But yes, I don't blame you. Chill out. There's a lot of problems with Season 10, so just take it easy. You have people that are doing really well. Trust me, there's a lot of luck involved in Pokemon Go PvP. Along with that, you probably aren't lagging, because I've lagged multiple times. Yeah, It's really bad, and I don't know why. I have really good internet now. Like, what the heck, Niantic? But it's what it is. Do a huge favor, please like and subscribe next to the 2 Charmanders. As you see here, this little box at the bottom right, if you go over there, as you see on the bottom right, there will be a subtox. You put your mouse over it, you can easily subscribe from there. Really appreciate my current subscribers. I appreciate you. Happy holidays and happy New Year's. Hopefully you're doing well in your Hopefully you're doing well in your Go Alley sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.